Erev Tov, everyone. This week's Parsha of Kisisa, so the central subject is naturally the unfortunate construction of the golden calf of the ego. And there are parallel stories regarding how this happened. Rashi quotes for us that when Moshe Rabbeinu had to build the menorah, the Tzalel Moshe, Nizkashe Moshe couldn't do it because of the fact that the menorah was built out of one solid piece of gold. So you had to be like a sculptor. How do you treat it? And he was not able to do it. So Rashi quotes the Medrash that Moshe followed the instructions of heaven, so to speak, and he took this enormous glob of gold and he built a fire, a large bonfire, and threw the gold into the fire, and out of that fire sprang the menorah. So it was miraculous. Couldn't happen otherwise. Nobody made it. But the menorah came by itself out of this fire that Moshe had lit and the gold that the Jewish people had donated. If we look in this week's Parsha regarding the construction of the ego, we see a parallel story. The Jewish people come to Aaron. By the way, I met a very interesting rabbi this week. There are such people. And so he said that when he was young and adventurous in his congregation, so in Parshas Kisisa, when it came time for the sermon, he hid in a closet. And they couldn't find him for like 15 minutes. And everybody was going wild, what to do? He says that's what the idea, Kiboshesh Moshe. Moshe didn't come, so now what do we do, right? Everybody's got a different plan. Call the police, call Hatzalah, go home, daven Mincha, do whatever, you know. I think that's the only time he did that, though. Anyway, so the Jewish people come to Aaron. Ish Moshe, who took us out of Mitzrayim, lo yadanu mehoyalo. We don't know where he is. We don't know what happened to him. He left us, and we're alone, and we're here in a trackless desert. Can't go back to Egypt, can't go forward. I say, Lonu Elohim, make for us a leader, a God, that he should lead us, give us something that we can hold on to. Aaron is unable to convince them that Moshe is going to come down in 40 days, that they should have patience. Patience is not a great Jewish virtue. And therefore, they demand that he do something now. So Aaron, again, he's stalling for time. He's pushing that they shouldn't do anything radical. So he says, bring me all the jewelry from that you have, the gold. Usually when you tell people I have a project, they're enthusiastic. But when you tell them that you have to give money for it, they're less enthusiastic. They're not pushing it. So Aaron figures that this is his way out. Tell him to bring the golden earrings that the men wore then. We'll see what to do with it. Aaron figures they're never going to come back. Meanwhile, he will have gained time. He doesn't know how long Moshe will be on the mountain. He can come any minute. To his surprise, they bring him all of the golden earrings. Chazal say the nature of the Jewish people is to be generous. Tovim la mishkan nosnim. You make a drive to build a mishkan, yeah, here we'll give you money. Tovim la egel, you're making a drive to make a golden calf, nosnim, yeah, we'll give you for that too. The nature of philanthropy is that one wants to give, so whoever approaches, whatever is available. So now he has all the gold. And he doesn't know what to do with it. So again, the Medrash tells us, and we see it in the Psukim, he takes the gold and he throws it into the fire. And out of this fire, the Medrash says, springs this egel, the golden calf, which seems to have life to it. And the Jewish people say, Yisrael, oh, this is our God. Now we have something to hold on to. Aaron still tries to stall, to delay. He says, Mocher, tomorrow will be a Yom Tov. But they get up early, for the Egel, you get up early. For the minyan, it's something. But the Egel, you got to do it. I remember I had a good friend in the yeshiva, and he was a very good student. He was a good Talmud Chacham, a very fine boy. But he never could get up for the minyan. The day the minyan was 7 o'clock, and his day didn't start till 8. And the mashgiach spoke to him hundreds of times, and they tried everything. Tried to bribe him. They tried to expel him. The Gornet Golf. Then what happened is that he married a very fine young woman whose father was in the wholesale produce business in Chicago. And the market opens at 3:30 in the morning. And he got up every morning to go to the market. And he always told me, the mashgiach cursed me. He got even with me. So they all got up. Oh, today's a Yom Tov. And the wildness of the golden calf occurred. So we have here two parallel stories. We have one story where Moshe throws gold into the fire and a menorah comes out. And the other story is that Aaron throws gold into the fire and an egel comes out. What's the difference? How do we look at this? So there's Chazal told us an important idea in how we look at the fulfillment and observance of mitzvot. The Gemara has a discussion whether mitzvot tzrichos kavana or einon tzrichas kavana? Do you need intent to do a mitzvah? In other words, do you give it any thought? Or is it just something been wrote that just happens? So technically speaking, we'll say mitzvahs einon tzrichas kavana. They don't need kavana is one thing. Certainly one should have it, but that doesn't interfere with the fact that you perform the mitzvah. So for instance, if on Sukkot, a person picks up a lulav and esrog without any kavana, without any intent, but he picked it up, so he was yetzer the mitzvah. Nevertheless, we will all agree that kavanah is important. Intent really defines the action itself. So even though you may have a mitzvah just by picking up the lulav and esrog, you're going to move it, you had no intent for the mitzvah. You didn't even know there's a mitzvah. And nevertheless, that's an imperfect performance of the mitzvah. That's why you'll find in our Sidurim many times before the mitzvah, there's a small prayer that is said before L'Shem Yichud, Kucha Brichu. This is for the sake of the unity of the great name of God. I'm prepared to do a mitzvah. Why do you say that? You don't say the mitzvah without saying it. But that's somehow to give the mitzvah the gravity that it's supposed to have, to make us realize its importance. I'm doing an action that the Lord has commanded me to do, and I'm fulfilling God's wishes, which means somehow I'm fulfilling my role in life and creation, in part of the reason that I'm here. So kavanah is important, very important. We find that sometimes a person does a good thing with a bad intent. We find that by Yosef. Yosef said it to his brothers. Atem chashavtem alai ra. You thought that you're doing me harm. You're throwing me in a pit. You're selling me as a slave. Elokim chashova letova. God made a great good thing come out of this. To save the world in a time of hunger, to reunite the family. Great, good, miraculous thing came out of this. But atem chashavtem alai ra. You thought to harm me. So the Achronim ask, it's the Klichemda and others, we find that the Gemara are not like that. The example that I use is, God forbid, guy wants to go into McDonald's to buy a hamburger. And here in Israel, there's McDonald's and McDonald's. So he doesn't care. He's going to go into the trade for McDonald's. He doesn't care. He doesn't know. As it happens, he went into the kosher McDonald's and he had the hamburger. So Lamaisa, he didn't do anything wrong, right? The kosher, their McDonald's only uses kosher meat in Israel. Which makes it worse. Because then it's Basar B'Cholev, real Basar B'Cholev. But in any event, we're not here to discuss McDonald's. So the Gemara says that he has to bring a korban chatas. He has to bring a sin offering. For what? Because he thought he was eating treif. He wanted to eat treif. The fact that he ate kosher, or he made a neder not to drink wine. And he drinks something which he thinks is wine, but it's not. It's a grape flavored seltzer or something. So the same thing. So then what good did Yosef do when he said, Atem chashavtem olai roa, Elokim chashova letova, even if it turns out good, his intent was bad. He's chayav. So the Klichemda and others, they say the difference is Beinolam L'Chavero and Beinolam L'Mokum. Beinolam L'Mokum, we always look at the intent, not only at the action. Beinolam L'Chavero, we can never look at the intent because we don't know what the other person really intended. Sometimes he doesn't know himself. So therefore, we only look at the action. But in any event, we see that Kavona is the criteria. It's an important thing. What was the intent here? So the Meforshim say that's the difference between the menorah and between the Egel Azov. The menorah also, it's all Jewish gold. It was all given with a donative intent. The great Moshe Rabbeinu himself throws the gold into the fire. And out springs the menorah. Because the intent of the people who made the fire was to make a menorah. That was their intent. Moshe told them that this is, we're going to make a menorah. By the Egel, it's Jewish gold. You have a great and pious Jew, Aaron HaKohen, and that he's the one that throws the gold into the fire. But the intent of the Jewish people was to make an Egel.
Maybe this is why the Goy can't light the fire for cooking.
You mean Bishalakum?
Goy.
Yeah, right. What is his intent? So it was the intent here that brought about the Egel. The fire was made by the Erev Rav. It wasn't made by Aaron. By the menorah, Moshe made the fire. So the fire had the intent of doing the mitzvah, of doing the greatness that the Rabbanu Shalom wished. Here the fire is made by the Erev Rav. They wanted an Egel. So then Aaron can't help, and the Jewish gold can't help. Out of it always comes an Egel. And that's a lesson for our circumstances as well. There are many, many good projects out of which an Egel comes. Because it depends who makes the fire and what was the kavona, what's the true intent at the end of the day, not cloaked in what they say the intent is, but what's the true intent. So then the Egel will always appear, God forbid. But in terms of building a menorah, the proper intent will always produce a menorah. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashi Omer Ratzah Kodesh Baruch Hu Ratzah Kodesh Yisrael. V'chol chibur lahem Torah mitzvot shenemar Adonai chafetz l'man tzidko yavil v'lo yavil.